Hello everyone, I am Gayatri Nimawat. On the fourth day of our presentation, I am going to deal with the topic Marxist criticism. This is my personal information. This is the entire roadmap of my presentation. Marxist culture theory originated in the work of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in the 19th century. These both are the prominent of Karl Marx of the Marxist theory. The Marx and Engels analysis of a society and the condition of production spilled over into an analysis of culture. Marxist criticism is a mode of literary and cultural analysis that views work of art as product of their historical and material context. Then who started it? The answer is Karl Marx. Karl Marx was a revolutionary sociologist, historian, and economist. He was a bourgeois Jew from a predominantly Catholic city within a country whose official religion was evangelical Protestantism. In October 1997, the New Yorker billed Karl Marx as the next big thinker, a man with much to teach us about political corruption, monopolization, alienation, inequality, and global market. But we can't have Marx without Friedrich Engels. Friedrich Engels was a German socialist and philosopher. He was worked together and collaboratively with Karl Marx and found the Marxism. Engels may have proudly accepted this status. Marx and Engels jointly wrote a preface to every new edition of the Communist Manifesto on its frequent republication in several languages to the 1883 German edition, published soon after Marx's death. Then, what is Marxism? Marxism is a general theory of the world in which we live and of human society as a part of that world. And as we have seen that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels worked together in this project, in this work, and they found theory during the middle and later part of last century. The philosophy of Marxism is materialism. It analyzes class struggle and advocates for a transition to a classless society through the abolition of private properties and the means of production. Marxism is grounded in materialism and the critique of political economy. According to Vladimir Lenin, there are three sources and three component part of Marxism. First is the materialist philosophy. Second is critique of political economy and the socialist politics. Then Marxism gave various terms, and first is bourgeois, means the class of people in bourgeois society who own the social means of production as their private properties, for example, as capital. Then capitalism, the socio-economic system where social relations are based on commodities for exchange, in particular private ownership of the means of production and on the exploitation of wage labor. Then proletariat, the proletariat is that class in society which lives entirely from the sale of its labor power and does not draw profit from any kind of capital, whose will and woe, whose life and death, whose sole existence depend on the demand for labor. Then Marxist literary criticism, it has founded by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. In the preface to a contribution to the critique of political economy, Karl Marx sets forth one of the basic notion of Marxist literary criticism, the notion of the superstructure. The apparent discrepancy between the relative autonomy of the art and economic determination has been problematic for Marxism. Mainstream Marxist literary criticism attempts to reconcile this discrepancy by maintaining that works of literature do not immediately reflect ideological and economic factor, but rather are the result of a whole series of levels and mediate between the literary work and the capitalist economy. Similarly, proletarian literature or the committed literature of the Marxists is considered to be not merely a passive reflection of a proletarian social relation. The proletarian writer reflects economic and social reality not merely by showing the effects of economic and social injustice upon individual personalities, but by creating characters whose typified typified the historic plight that many proletariats experience. Then there is two fundamental assumption of Marxist literary criticism, literary theory must be examined more closely. First is all cultural production is mediated by the substructure, and the second is the best literature actively attempt to promote social changes. Then there are two mainstream of Marxist criticism founded in 1916 and in 1917. First is Englesian Marxist criticism, and second is the Leninist Marxist criticism. So let's see both of them. First is Englesian Marxist criticism from the 1930s. However, a rich variety of Englesian Marxist criticism flourished either in exile or in a suppressed or ungrounded form. The group, now called the Russian formalists, had flourished in the 1920s until disbanded by the party, and should be mentioned here even though their work is not strictly Marxist in spirit. And the prominent member of this group were Victor Shklovsky, Boris Tomasz, Tomaszewski, and Boris Yuchenko. Then Shklovsky gave one concept of defamiliarization or making strange, that hold that one of the main effect of the language in literature is the achievement of making the familiar word to look as a world totally new for us. As with the concept of defamiliarization, there is a careful distinction here between reality itself and its verbal representation in work of literature, so that we are stripped away from any notion that literature simply mirrors reality in documentary way. Then Leninist Marxist criticism, it founded with the thought of Lenin, the Russian revolutionary and politician. The significance of Lenin's strategic and tactical writing for the struggle of the working class has been recognized by proletarian parties and movement the world over. Hence, the ideology of the revolutionary proletariat is termed Marxism, Leninism. The definition of Leninism is Marxism of the era of imperialism and the proletarian revolution. To be more exact, Leninism is the theory and tactics of the proletarian revolution in general, the theory and tactics of dictatorship of the proletarian in particular. This simple truth has evaded Anderson in his search for a Western Marxism. The influence of Althusser. Much recent Marxist thinking on literature has been influenced by the work of the French Marxist theoretician Louis Althusser, and his contribution will become clear if we outline some of the key terms and concepts he introduced. He tried to introduce some key terms like determinism, ideology, repressive structure, relative autonomy, decentering, and ideological structures. His Englesian announcements do not censure Marxist tendency to imprison art and literature with economics. Nevertheless, it is intended to release literature in a high degree. Due to both his innovative perspective and reformulation of the Marxist vision of literature, Althusser could be considered a revisionist of Marxism. Then, what Marxist critics do? Peter Berry gave a five Marxist practice to know what Marxist critics do. First is they divide the literary work content in overt and covert, means surface and hidden. Then they make a relation between the hidden subject of the literary work with element. Marxist topics such as classic struggle, clashes of large historical forces, conflict between social classes, and so forth. Then another method used by Marxist critic is to relate to the concept of work to the social class status of the author. Then a third Marxist method is to explain the nature of a whole literary genre in terms of the social period which produced it. Then a fourth Marxist practice is to relate the literary work to the social assumption of the time in which it is consumed, a strategy which is used particularly in the later variant of Marxist criticism known as cultural materialism. And a fifth Marxist practice is the politicization of literary form. That is, the claim that literary form are themselves determined by political circumstances. So, in summary, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels' work laid the foundation for Marxism, a theory encompassing philosophy, economics, and literary criticism. Their influence in evidenced in a field like political economy and the analysis of literature. Marxist literary criticism delved into hidden dimensions of literary work, connecting them to class struggle, historical forces, and social context. While different branches of Marxism exist, they share the core principle of materialism, critique of political economy, and socialist political, shaping our understanding of society, economics, and literature. These are the references. Thank you.